I didn't go to BYU. I don't have any ties to BYU. I wasn't born into BYU, but I see a fan base that wins 12 games in football. You turn on national television and they can't even get a mention. Those three letters, BYU, are an afterthought. And if nobody else wants to carry the boats, if nobody else wants to be honest about the weight that BYU carries in college athletics today from football to basketball, if nobody else wants to, I'm happy to do so.
Welcome. My name is Mike Lacey, and we're Beyond the Game from the 365 Sports Media Network. I'm excited to be with you today. I think we have a really good program planned, and things aren't easy. Life is full of all sorts of craziness. But today, February 5th, is the day after a loss that BYU suffered at Oklahoma State. We'll talk about that. But today, I don't know, it's a day for good. First of all, my beautiful wife, Diana, it's her birthday today. So happy birthday to Diana Lynn Larson Lacey, right? We want to talk today about the purpose of sport. Think about that. Why do we have sport? Why do we participate in sports? Sports they provide us fun. They provide us opportunities to see our own progress. I mean, think of track or golf. Am I progressing in my athleticism, in my fitness, in my skills? It provides us entertainment. I mean, think about when I see AJ Dybantsa do that putback dunk that he did last month, jumping up so high and then collecting that ball and then changing its direction and throwing it back down when the rest of us thought, oh, gee, another miss. It's fun. It's entertainment. It's enjoyable. And so sport, when you think of the Olympics, when you think of the Super Bowl coming up, why do we have sport? Why do we have sport? Last night, I watched that game, and what a great game if you're Oklahoma State. If you're BYU, wow, we lost. We really wanted to win that game. That was one that we thought we should have won. Oklahoma State's just, I mean, when you think about, they talk about quad 1 and quad 1A and quad 1B. Quad 1B is like when we used to play St. Mary's or USF in the WCC. Those were never gimmies. And last night was certainly not a gimme. But there was some that happened last night. I want to talk about this. I have mixed feelings about this as an ex-participant in college sports. And I understand both sides of it, but let's play a clip. This is, and I could hear this, the chants that were coming across pretty strong. At one point I thought, they're saying, come on, Mormons, whatever, or let's go, Mormons. But there was also some other chants, and Kevin Young had a little video, his post-game comments. This was a little bit interesting, but it's worth discussing as fans, and I think it's instructional for all of us. So let's play the Kevin Young clip from last night.
I'm going to do it. Just there was some F the Mormons chants tonight by the student section that I heard. And, you know, it's a great win for Oklahoma State University. Their fans should be proud. But it would be great if you know, some class was warranted, you know, in there as well. You know, I got 4 small kids at home. You know, I'm a Mormon. When I go home, they're going to ask me about it. Same way they asked me about it last year at Arizona. There's just too much hate in the world to be saying stuff like that. We got enough problems in our world without going at people's religion and beliefs and like whether it's in vogue or not. And we don't even have our whole teams. We only have probably 4 or 5 guys who are even Mormon on the team. I understand what we represent, but even for a guy like AJ, you know, like that stuff is unwarranted. And like I said, man, like, you know, I try to talk to our guys about being examples in the world. Like we can use basketball to really just bring people together and not tear people apart. It's something we talk about a lot. And it's just disappointing. So I hope someone prints that. I hope it's in bold on someone's publication, and just try to maybe together as a society we can just help the world kind of move forward and not divide each other and with hate and things that's really nonsensical. Thank you.
That's interesting. Kevin Young, AJ Dybantsa there in the post-game comments. Of course, it was a disappointing, frustrating night. But why do we play sports? Why do we play sports? What were the things that the Olympians back in the Greek days were trying to do when they had sport? What are the good things that come out of sport? Because in my opinion, sport, and I love, you know, Oklahoma State, all these teams in the Big 12, they're not perfect. Neither are we, obviously. And I'm talking about the fans as well as the teams. We've all got things that we can learn. I want to share when we get Drake Pohl on here in a moment. I want to share with him some ideas and hear his opinions, because I know he's had some good and powerful opinions on this too. So we'll come in with Drake Pohl in a moment. Thank you. Okay, I am very excited about this. In our household, you know, I have become a podcaster. Who knew? Who knew that some guy that worked in the financial field with Morgan Stanley and Merrill Lynch would actually become a podcaster? But I think I'm still the #1 podcaster in my wife's view. But we have, I don't know, I'm hoping he's the #2 podcaster in her opinion. Of course, I did say that it is my wife Diana's birthday today, but we are privileged and honored to have Mr. Drake Pohl with us. Drake, welcome to the Beyond the Game show.
Mike, pleasure is all mine to be here. And I know this was kind of a last-second happenstance, but everything happens for a reason. And you ran into an old running buddy of mine from ESPN Central Texas, and now here we are, and I'm honored to be invited on the show.
It was the funniest thing. First, let me share a short story, because my wife and her friend were talking. Her friend walks into the house, and she's a lady who's pretty involved in sports. She likes sports. She walks in the house. She knows I have a podcast. She says, "Have you guys heard the new BYU podcaster? His name's Drake Pohl."
Wow.
And I said, "Hey, Drake, now this is for you, Drake. You got to leave some market for us, brother. I mean,
My gosh.
I think you own Georgia to Utah, right?"
Something like that. Slowly but surely, the empire is trying to take over. But, you know, Mike, for me, when it comes to it, and surely we'll get to it because it's the hot button topic right now with BYU, is discrimination against faith. That is, you saw it with Oklahoma State in the basketball game, you know, last night on Wednesday night. And man, for me, since BYU came to the Big 12, since the first time I visited Provo, I felt like it was my calling to represent a fan base that's underrepresented from the outside. You know, I didn't go to BYU. I don't have any ties to BYU. I wasn't born into BYU, but I see a fan base that wins 12 games in football. You turn on national television and they can't even get a mention. Those 3 letters, BYU, are an afterthought. And if nobody else wants to carry the boats, if nobody else wants to be honest about the weight that BYU carries in college athletics today, from football to basketball, nobody else wants to, I'm happy to do so.
You know, and thank you. I mean, seriously, from the bottom of my heart, you heard that quote from from Kevin Young after the game last night. And it's interesting to me. I was an ex-player. I played during the Mark Wilson, Jim McMahon, Steve Young years.
Yeah.
And those were some fantastic years. I'll share one little story with you. There was one year, 1980, when BYU and Utah, and we used to play in rivalry week, the week of Thanksgiving.
Right.
We were both playing for the WAC championship that year. Whoever won this game won the championship. And you can imagine how, and we were playing up in Salt Lake City. So the two buses up from Provo to Salt Lake, we had a police escort because back then, Rice-Eccles Stadium, they had standing room only. There were like extra 10,000 people, that higher than the capacity. And I don't think the fire standards were as critical as they are now. So the police escort is leading us through this mob of people dressed in red. Can you envision that? And there was it might have been a root beer can. I don't know. I think I was sitting behind a guy named Chuck Ian. Chuck Ian is like a Norse god. He's 6'5".
Yeah.
He could have, and back then 300 pounds was rare, right?
Right.
He's a really light complected guy with blonde hair. He looked like he could be at the front of some Norse, boat.
Yeah.
And there's a Utah fan that threw this can and it hit the window right next to Chuck Ian. And his skin, so fair complected, I was sitting behind Chuck, and like a thermometer with red dye in it, Chuck just turned red. And I was sitting there as a player and a fan saying, these people from Utah don't know what they just lit.
Yeah.
We used stuff like that as fuel back then. So as a player, I didn't get upset that much when people said things or did things. It was almost like, hey, that's respect. But in this world, I mean, tell me, I heard your impassioned pleas weeks ago, maybe months ago, about these chants. Tell me how you feel about these chants, because as a player, it's just, they don't like us because we win, but there's some other things going on too, maybe, right?
Yeah, I think Kevin Young hit the nail on the head with, his kids are going to ask about this. Mike, it has almost nothing to do with BYU for me too, which is weird. It has more to do with the Utah fan who is a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or the Oklahoma State fan who's LDS, who's sitting in the arena saying, hey, I'm a member of the church because when I was in 5th grade, a missionary in Ardmore, Oklahoma came to where I was eating lunch, and we struck up a conversation, and my life changed that day, right? And now they're an Oklahoma State fan at Gallagher Iba Arena, and hearing that from the student section. That's who I think about more than I think about the staff of BYU. And certainly they should be in that conversation, the players of BYU. But the human beings, the human element of this that gets passed over is the guy who's an Arizona fan who heard this and thought, wow, I'm not welcome at a basketball game in the Big 12, and the conference is not going to say anything, do anything about it, to the shooting survivors, the Michigan Church shooting survivors who were in attendance in Cincinnati when this happened. It happened against Cincinnati when BYU went up there to play the Bearcats. Nothing from the conference, radio silence. It's the fact there's a lack of accountability, that these fans are not being held accountable. And you know what, Mike? I almost don't blame Kevin, the 20-year-old sophomore from Ada, Oklahoma, who was in the student section chanting it, because the guy next to him was chanting it. The guy next to him was chanting. The guy next to him, because Kevin probably thinks that BYU fans, these crazy people who've never had caffeine, right? Like he believes this laundry list of
True.
These boxes that people who are ignorant of the faith check off as, oh, they're weird. I don't have to see them as equal because of this, or this, because I don't agree with this, or this. And what I mean by don't see them as equal is that if we said, if we yelled slurs or chants that were anti-Muslim, that were here we go, anti-Muslim or anti-Judaism or Christian. You know, wait a second, that was an anti-Christian chant. That's the thing, Mike. They don't know that, right? Like they don't know what they were chanting was anti-Christian. Because if we all said, hey, F the Christians, oh my gosh, $500,000 fine, 15-yard penalty, flagrant 2. Like we're going to have some serious ramifications. But when it is Mormons, which is a misnomer in itself, by the way, when it's Mormons, we don't care. People don't care because they don't get it. They're ignorant to it. And so for me, as someone of faith and not a member of the church, I see discrimination that is not being handled by a governing body, not being referenced by a governing body. That's what I take issue with.
And thank you for standing up that way. As an ex-player, it hasn't bothered me.
Yeah.
But as a fan, and yes, as I lived in New Mexico for the longest time. And we raised our family. We take and back in the Western Athletic Conference years, you know, when Utah and BYU were playing against Wyoming and UNM, they didn't like BYU. And I always said, I was from California. I didn't know that much about the rivalry between the schools or even the anti-religious bigotry. But at UNM, when we went to those games, if I had like a banner on my car or a sticker about BYU, it frequently got keyed.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it just, there's some, call it hatred. Kevin Young called it hatred.
Yeah.
It doesn't take us anywhere. It doesn't take us anywhere good. And so I know a little bit about, and I want to share some of I think you have this really cool perspective on sports. Your involvement with the Savannah Bananas just intrigues me because years ago I saw this team. My father was a professional baseball player. They were very disappointed when I chose to play football instead of baseball. And why did I go to football? The girls in high school went to the football games. They didn't go to the baseball games.
Yeah.
You guys at the Savannah Bananas are making baseball into a fun game. And we're going to tie this into what do we have sports about? So I have a short clip and we can talk about your involvement with the Bananas if we can. But enjoy this with me for a second. It's a short clip about the Savannah Bananas.
Yes! Come on! This one high to left. Pretty much straight to Robert Anthony Cruz. Back pedaling, back flipping! Makes the catch! It's a rack flip!
I think Mesa, Arizona, 2025. I was in attendance to that game. I was calling that game with the organization. You're right up my alley here, Mike. You're speaking my language.
I mean, seriously, that makes baseball, which for a lot of, not for me, I love baseball. I love the stats. I love teams. Baseball, I think, connects us in a lot of ways. The Savannah Bananas makes baseball, which can be boring to a lot of people, fun. Tell us about your involvement with the Savannah Bananas.
Yeah, so I'm starting my third tour actually this year. And Mike, at the time of recording this, I just got wrapped up doing play-by-play for the Party Animals and the Indianapolis Club. I'm still in my Party Animals garb, actually.
Animals, your BYU and your Party Animal. How does that work?
Right, you got to mix it all up. I'm like the Austin Collie of the world. I'm taking after him. I've taken a lot of notes from that guy. You know, what's so cool about being hired with the Party Animals, it actually ties into my love for the Big 12, for BYU, for my hometown of Valonia, Arkansas, it's the underdog. Like when I got hired with the Bananas, it was not, hey, we want you to facilitate the Savannah Bananas. They brought me in. We want to bring you in to help grow our auxiliary brand, the second brand, the Party Animals. We want to make them as big as the Savannah Bananas. And now the Animals have 3 million followers on TikTok and 1 million followers on Instagram, and we've sold out the Comerica Park, home of the Detroit Tigers, for just the Party Animals. No bananas in sight. It's the growth of the sport of banana ball is that now with 6 teams, we can spread across the country. So I don't need to have a podcast about the SEC. I don't want to talk about the Lakers or the Yankees or Duke basketball. I don't even need to be at the forefront of the Savannah Bananas. I love to build. I love to take what is underrepresented and underrecognized and give it a voice, give it publicity, give it something to promote to the world. And that's what Banana Ball has been for me, the opportunity to work hand in hand in the front office as a front office member of the Savannah Banana. I mean, my email is drake@thesavannahbananas.com. But it also redirects to drake@thepartyanimals.com. So my involvement here has been spectacular. And Mike, any given week that you see a dance go viral, a song go viral, a walk-up go viral, that could have been me on a Tuesday giving that pitch of, hey, let's have Tanner Thomas go to the plate with Heart Attack by Demi Lovato and use these 3 props. And I go in and I build that alongside our incredibly talented team. We have players that execute it, and then they go viral every weekend. So I'm having a blast over here.
How in the heck does a guy who obviously these are real ball players?
Yeah.
And then they also, I mean, they choreograph, they dance, they do acrobatic flips while they're making a catch out in the outfield. It's crazy and fun. It makes that game fun.
Yeah, it does. And for me, you know, I had a mentor one time. I applied for a broadcast award. And you had to submit, 10 or 15 minutes, your best calls, your best stuff, right? Mike, this is 3 years ago. And the guy facilitating the award, he calls me and he said, "You are terrible." I said, "What?" And he's like, "You don't have any of the mechanics down. You don't, I mean, you're talking when you're not supposed to. You're not giving the right keys that we want more down and distance. This is just, I don't even know what to do with this because it's so technically bad." But you know what he said right after that, Mike? He said, "But you know what? You're a star." He said, "You're a star." He said, "I want to coach you. I want to teach you." He said, "Because you don't need all the technical stuff if you're that different. You bet on yourself like that. If you really believe in what you're doing and what you want to do, we can turn you into a star." And John Chalesnik is his name. He may not have been that abrasive when he first called me, but it sounded that way. It sounded like he was being very, and he was being critical of how I broadcast games. He said, "Look, you may never win a traditional award, but you don't want to, do you?" I said, "No." And to be in a place that emphasizes fun, that emphasizes changing the game of baseball, but also promoting the game of baseball, like the Savannah Bananas. Mike, there are so many people who are like, "Oh, it's not for me. I hate it. Oh, they're ruining baseball. It's a mockery." Until you see it. Until you get in the middle of it, you feel this communal effervescence. It almost feels like a BYU football game. When the fire dancers come out and Cosmo's banging the drum, there's this communal effervescence. We're all in this moment together, happy because of what's happening in front of us. That's what we've built with the Bananas, and I think that I fit in perfectly as somebody who's always wanted to bring something different, happy, fun to the scene.
And that's the essence of sports, Drake.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. We all want to compete. It's disappointing when it's disappointing when my team loses. I'm sure when your team loses, Drake, you don't feel great about it.
Yeah.
But it does connect us. And I don't know. I don't know. I was making light of the chants that they were doing. I was making light because, the proper style is to say F the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, right?
Right. That's the beauty. I mentioned it's a misnomer, right? They don't even know what they're saying.
Well, no, I mean, if they really don't want to be abusive, you use the proper name. And yet
it's almost like I redact the fine. If they're going to go as far as to say F the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and coordinate that as a chant, you know what? Fine. I'll let them have it.
That might cause it to stop happening because it's too hard. It doesn't happen in one breath. But seriously, sports bring us together. I think you have a religious background. I do too. I'm a convert to the church. And so I see both sides. I have really strong friends who are Baptist, and down in New Mexico, they'd say, "Hey, Mike, I really like you, but I don't like your church."
Yeah.
And and I can tease them about their beliefs and they can tease me, but I don't know. If we don't want to make a Sunday school class out of this, Drake. But
sure.
I think of the scriptural reference where Jesus, talked to his disciples, and they didn't like the Samaritans up in the north because the Samaritans believed a little bit different than the rest of them, right?
Yeah.
And so the Jews at that time didn't like the Samaritans. And what was really cool about Jesus and his teachings, because I love people of all faiths. I mean, the fact that you try to have something that leads you to good, but I'll get off my soapbox in a second. If I'm a Baptist and I'm looking at the Mormons, let's talk about them as they're like the Samaritans, and Jesus said, love them. And if I'm a Mormon or a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I want to love them. And so I know a lot of people in the background of all these schools in the Big 12 are trying to do what's right. The student section might go crazy. Like you even, Bob up there in the stands, is the guy next to him starting to yell, and okay, I'll join in. But one of the things I love when I see the BYU folks passing the ice cream up in the stands to the fans of the other team, and I think I heard the Oklahoma State fans try to overwhelm the students by saying, maybe I wasn't hearing it right, but it sounded like they were saying, let's go Mormons or something to try to drown it out. Did you hear that, or was I just making
like a let's go Cowboys or some sort of, it sounded like there was almost something clashing.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Hey, but what you're doing in sports, I want to help people tell their stories because I think every human being has a story, and your story is fascinating. Stephanie Beatty, who used to be on set with you, was the one, my son and his business partner and I were meeting with Stephanie yesterday or 2 days ago. And we said, oh, this Drake Toll guy, and I told the story about my wife's friend who said, oh, he's the new BYU podcaster.
Yeah.
And how you've made such an inroad with our people. People just want to be affirmed,
Right.
But Stephanie said, oh, let me call him right now. And you picked up, and that was cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Had to. I felt it pull. It's like, if Stephanie's calling me, there's something needs to be done. There's something pressing. And, Mike, I think you articulated it well, and to say that this wasn't meant to be Sunday morning Bible school lesson. I hope that, and I think you should, if you really listen to what Mike said, not to take over your own show, but if you really listen to, you can believe in nothing. You can be of any faith, any belief system. The mentioning of Christ in this conversation, or the mentioning of, Christianity, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the parallels, Catholicism, any of that mention is more of us all understanding that in sports, we can come together here. And in this, it should not be a place, the Big 12 should not be a place where you question, as a Catholic, as a practicing Catholic, or a practicing member of the LDS faith, or a practicing member of Judaism, that you'd walk into a venue and feel as though what you believe in is going to be attacked. Or you walk into a venue and you feel as though you don't belong or you're not welcome. And so I want to reemphasize what you said there. This is less of a take you to church, teach you something you've got to apply to your life about one certain faith and one certain way to believe. No, I think we should all believe that in sports there is zero place. There should be zero tolerance for making people uncomfortable for what they believe about their soul. And that's a weird. You may feel uncomfortable yourself hearing that. Like, wow, the sports guy's mentioning the word soul, but man, I do think that there's something
the
deeper.
Savannah Banana guy,
Right. There's something deeper to this whole thing we're living. I'm happy to say that on Beyond the Game or Locked On Big 12. I'm happy to say there's something deeper than the life that's in front of you. And if that is the case, I do believe it's the case, then, anybody who believes that should not be left out or feel discriminated against at a sporting event of all places.
And I like the way Kevin Young ended his conversation. Yeah, we do have enough hatred, and some of that hatred leads to actual violence. I won't say against, there was in Michigan against the LDS people there, but consider the other religious bigotry over the hundreds and thousands of years. We can do better to me, these are learning experiences because we do need to unite. And where the Big 12 has such a powerful podium is to bring people that sometimes feel divided into being united. And so I'm just grateful that BYU is part of this conference.
Yeah.
Because, you got a Baylor helmet behind you there. We visited Baylor, and I know, there you go. We visited Baylor, my sons and I, when BYU went there a year ago. And I loved it there.
Yeah.
And I know, there are a lot of people there who might not like or understand members of my faith. But, I think there's at least 90% unity in the way we believe, the way we want to live our lives. And there might be 10% difference. Let's emphasize the unity because I'm excited. That's a beautiful venue, first of all. Baylor played us in a really good game. They made a comeback.
Yeah.
Similar that game to what BYU was doing this year. Drake Toll, I'm just grateful that you've been able to join us for a minute. Tell us what your strong feelings about the Big 12 and where it's going, because you can see the Big 10 and the SEC trying to kind of shoehorn the ACCs and the Big 12s out of the money pockets. Where do you think we go? How do we survive? How do we thrive as a Big 12?
Yeah, I think the Brett Yormark open for business moniker is a start. Looking at any and all avenues of future success for the conference and growth of the conference. That said, there is the SEC's strength, their great strength is community. They're a very communal conference. They want you to know there are hats that say SEC on them and have the 16 logos that people wear because they love their conference that much. That is the foundation. Like the start can be, all right, where do we go next? Do we try to add Miami in a big ploy to steal from the ACC? Do we try to grab Louisville or Virginia Tech? That's the long-term play. That's the big play. But the foundation, if that's the start, the foundation, the most important piece is having all 16 teams in our league united around the Big 12, having Utah united around the Big 12, having Texas Tech understanding this is a conference we want to invest in, buy into. And then from there, that's where true success is. The Big Ten is struggling right now to merge USC and Rutgers, UCLA and Illinois. You're hearing it from their coaches, from their athletic directors. It's taken a toll on that conference. They've lost their identity. The ACC, Cal playing Virginia in a conference game, or Stanford playing SMU.
Traveling to Clemson, right, or SMU, right?
It feels weird. It feels different. The Big 12 is predicated on grit. Fan bases that are built with grit. You've got the coal miners of West Virginia, and you've got people who work the counter at a Maverick in Orem, and they all come together and love Big 12 football. There's something about this conference for fan bases, people who feel like they've always been overlooked, to root for. So it's a matter of making sure our 16 teams are as cohesive as possible. That's the foundation of how we have long-term success.
And you know what, Drake? They play football in these Midwestern towns.
Yeah.
They play, when you go down to Texas, and we've got a lot of Texas influence in Oklahoma, and football kind of drives the roost in sports, but men's basketball too. As far as the money-driven sports. But thank you for all you do representing the Big 12. I love we need to talk more about the Savannah Bananas if you want, because that just brings a smile to my face. And to me, that's what sports is all about. Sports is about bringing people together, growing, developing our skills, being entertained. And Drake, you bring entertainment to it. And you also bring people to it because intuitively how to connect with people in Utah and how to connect with people in Georgia.
Right.
And you're doing it with flair. So thank you.
Of course, Mike, it is an honor to be a kid from Valonia, Arkansas, population 35. I've got that one's over here. I got that population sign. Won't tell you how I got it. And it's just, it's so cool to have an impression from a small town in a state that's overlooked and underrated and underappreciated, and then be able to represent fans who feel the same way, to represent people who feel the same way as they consume sports. So like I said, Locked On SEC will never be for me. Hosting a Lakers podcast, not my vibe. Talking about the Yankees, don't need to do that. I find a lot of hope and a lot of satisfaction in representing the underappreciated and underpromoted. And so it's like I said at the top of the show, an honor to be on with you. It's just an honor to be recognized for talking about things that the rest of national media don't really want to touch. Like I'll go there. And Mike, the opportunity to join your show is vindicating.
Drake, I'm on your team in that same emphasis. We want to join, we want to grow. And yes, we're underrepresented. Sometimes we're underappreciated or especially misunderstood.
Yeah.
That only provides us opportunities to grow.
That's right.
If a young fan at Arizona or Oklahoma State says something they probably shouldn't, or later I'm ready to grow with it. Let's grow and let's be better. Thank you for making the world a better place, Drake. I hope to visit with you again more.
Always, Mike. This was great.
Okay. That's Drake Toll, not just the BYU podcaster, but the guy who represents the Big 12 and is out there to get the underrepresented viewed. Thank you, Drake.
Of course, Mike.
And that's fun meeting with Drake Toll of the Savannah Bananas, the Big 12, and of course now newly adopted BYU Cougar. And I'm sure his Baylor ties are even stronger. I really want to come back to why sports. What's the purpose of sport? Especially now where maybe one of the biggest weeks, we have the Super Bowl coming up. We've got this weekend, we've got the Olympics that we're getting ready for, the Winter Olympics. And the sad news of Lindsey Vonn having that accident and having an ACL, an anterior cruciate ligament injury, at least. I don't know if it's fully torn. They said it was, I forget the word, but a problem. She hurt herself. And yet she's still going to compete. We've got the Super Bowl. We call it the Super Nana Bowl because for many years now, the Super Bowl is being played on when our family gets together to celebrate Diana's birthday. But why do we have sports? We compete. We are entertained. I like how Drake put together that it brings communities together. And indeed it does. One of the beauties of the university system and college system in the United States is that we connect these sports teams to our schools. And it's a little bit of our identity. Maybe in the SEC, it's too much of their identity, or shouldn't cast too many stones. But it helps us connect. It gives us an opportunity to compare our strengths versus others. And even when we get old, I can't imagine at my age playing football the way I did so many years ago. Running into one of those big, strong young men would kill me today. And back then, I loved it. It was so fun to compare your talent, your skill, your size, your strength to the person across the line from you, or the person competing in the lane next to you in a track meet. That's what sports is all about. And it helps us from our different regions where maybe we misunderstand in Utah how life really is in Kansas or in Oklahoma or in Texas. It brings us together so that we can understand each other a little bit more. Again, getting it back up onto my soapbox, you think of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, all the different religions or beliefs or lack of belief. If we really want to be, as the Savior said, of one heart and one mind, as perhaps the city of Enoch, then I think sports can help us become that way. And it also becomes a challenge for us to live that way. It's been interesting to see in the last couple of weeks a little bit of a transition with Coach Mark Pope at Kentucky. Of course, he was our coach until Kevin Young took his place because he went to Kentucky. And in Kentucky, it's interesting that they were having a difficult time and lost some games, so even some big games. Vanderbilt beat them by quite a bit. And I was reading in their fan base that they were upset with Coach Pope here only 2 years after they gave him a big contract. And now they've won some games. They, out of the last 10, they're quite, I don't know, 6 or 7, maybe 8 wins out of the last 10. And so now people are becoming a little more relaxed or a little more content with him. They're more competitive. I think they're second or third in the SEC in the basketball conference. It makes me think of Steve Young, believe it or not, I'll put this together, and his book, The Law of Love. Steve Young, a BYU great, an NFL great, writes a book on the law of love, and he compared the law of love with our transactional ways that we sometimes can live. And so, am I a transactional fan? If my favorite player misses a three or doesn't put back an easy layup on a rebound, am I going to be upset with him? What is a fan? What is the purpose of sport? Are we fanatics? Or are they and our team, these guys, these people on our teams, are they part of my team? Brent Johnson gave us a wonderful lesson on that back in the 1979 Holiday Bowl. We've talked about it numerous times, and a missed field goal that now is a life lesson and gives us all lessons. Kevin Young and this basketball team have a big challenge ahead, and we as fans can support them in that challenge, or we can sit transactionally on the sideline and nitpick and get angry and maybe get like the Kentucky fans were, or maybe still are, with Mark Pope. I hope that we're more let's get together as a community and learn and grow and develop new skills so that the next game we get better. So that's it for today's lesson in sports, life lessons from sports beyond the game. Thank you for being with us. I'm Mike Lacey. It's fun having Drake Toll here today. May we go out and get a victory against Houston on Saturday. Thank you very much for being with us at Beyond the Game.
We are Rogue Media Sports.